Well, after the most dramatic ending to an episode that we've ever had in the Gilded Age, the finale is now only one episode away. I can't actually believe how quick Season 3's gone. With George Russell potentially being on death's door, Peggy and Dr Kirkland's blossoming romance about to lose all of its petals, and Bertha looking like she's about to ascend the high society throne and take the crown away from Mrs Astor. This final episode will most likely have all of the drama that we're looking for when it comes to leading the show into Season 4, which recently got commissioned. So with that, I thought I'd break down the trailer along with giving my theories and predictions on how I think the show will end. Here is the Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 8 trailer explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. So the trailer opened up with us seeing sheer panic following the final scene of Episode 7 where George was shot. There was upset in Bertha's voice as she said, "Is he breathing? Please tell me he's breathing." As this was happening, we saw George being carried down into the entrance of the Russells' household, but there was a shot of Mr. Church walking outside of the home as well. When it comes to George being shot, I think this could go in one of two ways. I think George surviving this ordeal could potentially bring the family closer together because it'll make the likes of Bertha realize that a life is a life and that it's not just a pawn on a board for her to be able to move and manipulate so that she can gradually work towards getting what she wants. With George also being so close to death, I think it'll make him look to appreciate his family just that little bit more, and as a whole, the family might just get that little bit closer with one another. However, if George does die, I think this could be a spin on the true story of the marriage of the real people that the Russells are based on. There was a point made in the most recent episode about how Larry saved the day and how he was the person that essentially put the Russells back on top. So I wonder if this was done to show that he's now ready to essentially ascend the position of the man of the house in the traditional sense. So with his father being killed, he'd naturally have to step up to it, and he showed that he was able to do it. It could be a twist because in real life, William K. Vanderbilt and Alva Belmont both got divorced from each other. So what if the show is just going for a more heartbreaking and fairy tale approach, rather than just divorce? So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with the fate of George. After this, we then cut to Dorothy and Mrs. Kirkland speaking with one another, and I absolutely loved it. Dorothy was sticking up for Peggy in a way that Dr. Kirkland has never done. She said to Mrs. Kirkland, "You can see everyone else's flaws, but not your own." So I'm imagining this is probably coming off the back of Mrs. Kirkland slandering Peggy, calling her a tainted woman and highlighting how she doesn't feel like she's good enough for Dr. Kirkland. I think we can all agree though that Peggy is actually far too good for the likes of Dr. Kirkland, especially seeing as though he can't stand up to his mother for her. The next scene then had Dr. Kirkland and Peggy sitting together, and he said, "It's true then." And she responded and said, "I was going to tell you." This is in response to the fact that she was previously married and that she had a child that died. The tone of this scene really does show that Dr. Kirkland is going to be hurt by the fact that Peggy didn't tell him, but I also think it's reflective of how judgmental society was at the time. The scene ultimately concluded with Kirkland just looking at her in an ominous way which didn't truly tell us if he was going to stay with her or if he was going to walk away and listen to his mother. Judging by the scene that we had at the end of the episode where we saw Dorothy cradling her daughter while she was in tears as if she was an infant again and telling her that she is worthy, I think we could well see Dr. Kirkland listen to his mother, break Peggy's heart and lose out on such a good thing. He's been weak all season in standing up for Peggy and stepping away from his mother, so I wouldn't put it past him to stay true to that. After this, we saw Agnes giving Marian advice and she said, "You must go to him and admit that you're wrong." This to me shows that Marian is finally going to realize that Larry didn't actually do anything, and now she's going to be the one that's asking for forgiveness. However, with George being in a critical condition, I feel like his mind is going to be preoccupied, and whilst it was originally high on his priority list, it might well have dropped down a little bit, and he might not give her the time of day. I do think that we'll see them back together in the end though. There was a shot of Larry standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I think this is him laying eyes on his father for the first time whilst in that condition. During the scene between Agnes and Marian, Oscar said to Agnes, "Do you admit when you're wrong, Mama?" And she said, "I don't need to. I'm never wrong." I like this because it showed that even with all of that drama that was taking place, they were still able to inject some humor and personality into it. After this, we then saw the Newport Ball taking place, which is Bertha's power move. The Duke and Gladys were both there, so they made it back in time, and over the top of this scene there was a voiceover that Mrs Astor said, which was, "We cannot allow the scourge of divorce to infect the social circles." What was interesting here was there was a shot of Bertha looking worried. As I mentioned, I feel like Bertha wanted to introduce this rule break because she feels like she could well be the one that's staring down the barrel of divorce in the not so distant future. So she could be doing it so that she doesn't face the culling from the pack. Within reality, when Alva Belmont and William K. Vanderbilt got divorced, at first she was ostracized, but when people saw how she went on to thrive and how she also got her daughter to marry the Duke, divorce became less of an embarrassing thing, and it opened the gateway for many others in high society to get divorced. Bertha responded to Mrs Astor and said, "Do you want them to live in exile forever?" To which Mrs Astor's daughter and Aurora were both shocked at the fact that she answered back in the way that she did towards her. So I think there's definitely going to be friction between the two powerhouses in the finale. Following this, we saw that Oscar was meeting with Bertha and he said to her, "You will be as strong as Mrs Astor," showing that Bertha was going to be making her move for power and is most likely going to include the divorced women. As well as this, there was a scene of Ada sitting down at the head of the table. Throughout this season, even though Ada was the person that saved the household from financial ruin, she wasn't seated at the head of the table due to Agnes's pride. But now it feels like Agnes is going to step to the side and allow her sister to sit at the place at the table that's rightfully hers. In the next part of the trailer, we saw Bertha saying, "I am ruthless for the people I love. Can you not see that?" And as she said this, it cut to her hugging Gladys, most likely upon her arrival, the Duke dancing with Gladys at the ball, and then her speaking with somebody else. I'm presuming it's Larry, as we saw in the previous episode that he was getting fed up with her himself and felt like she was just using everybody. So with George in a critical condition, he might be questioning why it is that she's still going ahead with the ball. The choice to include Gladys as the visual in this speech is most likely because Gladys was the person who she was the most ruthless with. After this, it then cut to Jack sitting in his new home, and he looked surprised to see somebody enter. So I wonder if this could be an old relative or something like that who read about him in the paper following him coming into all of that money. And as well, it had Larry speaking and saying, "Nothing's guaranteed in this life." But then at the same time, it cut to Marian speaking to Larry and saying, "I'd do anything for you. You must know that." So it looks like she's going to be the one going to him with her tail in between her legs looking for forgiveness, but also being there so he can have a shoulder to cry on whilst the fate of his father is unknown. There was also a shot of George looking like he was resting, so I'm going to presume that they might well get him to a condition where he's stable. Then from there, the trailer came to a close. It's definitely going to be an interesting finale, and I think the stakes are the highest that they've ever been. I'm going to say that George survives, Larry and Marian get back together, Jack has a visitor from his past, and Peggy and Dr Kirkland won't become the couple that we all hoped that they would. With less than a week to go, it's definitely going to be a good one. So, there you have it, the Gilded Age Season 3 Episode 8 trailer explained.